Introducing On the Horizon, a podcast by Horizon Resources Cooperative, supporting farmers and ranchers across Northwest North Dakota and Northeast Montana. Join host Levi Hall as he engages with agronomy experts, grain traders, and community leaders, sharing insights to help you make confident, informed decisions for your operations. From market trends to practical advice, we bring you the conversations that matter.
Horizon Resources, solutions for your success.
Welcome back to On the Horizon. This week, we have Monica McConkey talking about rural mental health. Monica was a phenomenal conversation, and we get into a very, very important yet uncomfortable conversation where we talk about how to reach out to people that we think might be struggling, people that might need help, or people that we're just concerned about. Horizon Resources wants all of our people to know that you're all important. We want you all to be here, and we're so happy that you're either doing business with us, you're a member of our cooperative, or maybe you're listening from afar. Maybe you're at a competitor even. It doesn't matter. You are a valuable person, and we want you to be here. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy the show. At Horizon Resources, grain marketing isn't just about numbers, it's about relationships. We work side by side with our producers to create marketing strategies that perform. When you deliver to Horizon Resources, you deliver to a team that values your operations' success. We're here to serve. We're built to grow. We are Horizon Resources. Welcome back to the show. This week, I have a very special guest, Monica McConkey. Monica, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, it's good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. So if our listeners remember, if they've been longtime listeners, about a year ago, we had Angie Johnson from North Dakota State University talking about farm safety. And we talked a lot about, the normal stuff of PTOs and moving parts and all the dangerous things that can harm us physically. I reached out to Angie again and I said, you know what, we really need to talk about something. There's been a little bit of an epidemic crossing the state right now. We're in an extremely stressful time. And so I asked about mental health and she sent me over to Monica. So Monica, with that, why don't you give a little bit of introduction about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So I tell people I'm a farm girl turned farm counselor. I grew up on a farm in northwestern Minnesota, where my family still farms. My parents are still very heavily involved, and my brother is the fourth generation, and my 22-year-old son is the fifth generation. So he works with uncle and grandma and grandpa every day on the family farm, all crops, corn, soybeans, and wheat. So I stay very in touch with the current stressors and trends and markets, and it's still very real in my life. But after school, I went into the behavioral health field after my master's program, and this is year 30 actually for me in working in behavioral health or mental health. And have always worked in rural areas. But in 2019, I opened a private practice and I focus on mental health and agriculture. So this is why I'm standing where I am today. I met with a farmer in a rural central Minnesota at a park, and they just left a little bit ago. And so here I am doing this recording. But yeah, every day I'm talking with farmers and ranchers. I'm out on farms or meeting locations. And, we just talk through a variety of stressors from crisis to family relationships to difficulty with managing depression, anxiety, and kind of all of the above.
You have a great website that links all of the different, the wide breadth of things that you cover through your practice, and you do a great job. But I really want to talk today about the rural mental health and the dynamics of the farm stress, because it's such an interesting profession that these people have chosen. It's one that can be very rewarding, but it can also be extremely stressful because if I'm a farmer, I don't know what my paycheck's going to look like at the end of the year.
Exactly.
And that can be difficult when so many of these individuals are, or at least consider themselves to be, the provider for the family. So
Mhm.
how do you deal with that, especially in a time where right now we've seen skyrocketing inputs, we've seen
Yep.
lower grain prices, and something that we didn't see previously, we've got more expensive cost of money. So
Yep.
everything is just working against us right now, it feels like. And
Mhm.
this is something that we at the co-op have talked about a lot, projecting out 2 to 3 years. Talk a little bit about that and how this impacts these farmers and what we can be looking for.
Oh, it's just a huge impact. Farmers struggle on good years when prices are good because there's so many other dynamics that are involved. Working with family, working where you live, long hours, isolation, the weather, I mean, you name it. But when you add to that really difficult finances, it really tips the scales because many of the farmers out there know they're gonna work really, really hard all season, all year, and they're gonna come out behind. And it's very defeating and very hopeless. And so it starts to have an impact not only on, just stress and mental and emotional impact, but it has an impact on your physical health, on your relationships with others. Um, a lot of times we start trying to cope in ways that aren't super healthy, like drinking more, sleeping more. Uh, so yeah, it's pretty pervasive right now in terms of how do I deal with this really hopeless feeling. We don't have an end date. We don't know where it's coming. I've heard new crop soybeans don't have a market in much of North Dakota. That's a lot. That's a lot of stress to manage, and so the impact is really pervasive in all areas of life. It's just that feeling of hopelessness. So that's when we start doing a lot of work on what in this whole thing do I have control over, and I'm gonna make a plan around what I have control over. So I don't have control over the prices. What do I need to plan for? Do I need to plan for storage? Do I need to seek out other markets? And it's so unique to every farm, but to help us ease the emotion, it's just important that we look at what we can control, make a plan, and also take note of what's going well. Because in times when everything seems to be going badly, it feels like nothing's going very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And before the show, you and I talked a little bit about our listenership. And so I want to kind of break this
Mhm.
down from three different aspects because we have a, what I would call three different demographics that listen to this. One, we have our producers. And so I'd love
Yep.
to really look at it from producer standpoint. And then we have a lot of their spouses that are listening as well. And so if you're a
Mhm.
spouse, how do you handle these changes and what can you do to help? And then finally, we have other cooperative employees, private employees that are working, whether it's across North Dakota and Montana,
Yep.
or beyond. We do have a pretty wide breadth there that listens to this. So, from each of
Yeah.
those standpoints, how do you notice these and how do you start these conversations? Because I often feel like when it comes to mental health, if you start saying, "Well,
Mhm.
you should just tell them," and it's no, don't say it like that. Don't say it like that. Don't say it like that.
Right.
So, how do we get started? So let's start from a
Right.
farmer perspective. Maybe reaching out for
Okay.
help. How does that start?
Yeah, and gosh, for our farmers, that's a tough thing, right? Because they don't even reach out for, like, physical
Yeah,
help, like, "Oh, I think my, leg's broken, but I can make it through harvest." That's just the
yes,
mindset.
yeah.
And so to reach out for help for difficult emotions or for stress, I mean, that's really hard. But I tell farmers all the time that are hesitating, do I reach out for help? Do I not? Your operation is only gonna be as good and as healthy as you are. So if you're not sleeping nights, if you can't get these whirling thoughts to calm down in your mind, it's going to be much harder for you to make decisions, for you to remember things, for you to feel motivated. So we need to get you okay. So then you can deal with all of the things that come with running your farm or ranch.
Mhm.
And so just knowing that it's not a sign of weakness to reach out for help, that no, a counselor, therapist, pastor, priest, whoever is not gonna magically make commodity prices go up, but we can certainly help you try to get your thoughts and emotions in order so that you can function better, so that you don't feel like you're just spiraling and there's no hope at the end. Um, so that's kind of my plug for reaching out for help. If you want your operation to be healthy and well, it's got to start with you. And so finding, finding a resource doesn't have to be a counselor. It can be a faith community person. It can be a good trusted friend, a mentor, a family member, but just reaching out to someone because it's pretty darn easy to isolate and withdraw when we're feeling all these stressors pile on top of us.
Yeah.
Um,
And so if you're a friend that has somebody reach out, and I'm going to kind of segue this into that second group, whether it's
Yep.
a spouse, a friend, and it might be dad on the farm, it might be the son or daughter
mhm.
on the farm, but somebody adjacent to, but still very close with, most likely a family member,
Yep.
or like you mentioned, nobody understands the stress that farmers have right now better than the other farmers. And so
Yes.
I mean, I see it every day. There's very tight knit groups within the farming
Mhm.
community. They each have their own friends that they hang out with. How do you start
Yep.
that conversation when you start noticing, like, boy, maybe Farmer Brown's acting a little bit different today? Maybe in the last couple of weeks,
Right.
he's been really down, or I've seen posts on
Yep.
social media. How do I handle that? How do I reach out?
Yeah, such a good question. And the first thing is that noticing. Like I'm noticing that something just is not the same with them. Like it might be their personality, it might be their mood, it might be how they look, their appearance, but there's some departure from how they were. Or maybe they are making some statements or posting things on social media that indicate hopelessness. It's not worth it anymore. My family would be better off without me. Any statements that have kind of that finality to it, that it's not worth it anymore. It could mean they're saying financially farming is not worth it anymore. Okay, that's a whole different path than my life's not worth it anymore. But the only way we're going to know is to ask what they mean.
Yeah.
So whatever difference we're noticing, maybe they're withdrawing, maybe they're, up all night, uh, whatever whatever we're noticing that's causing us to have some concern, that's the place to start. So, like, I would go to somebody and say, "Hey, I've noticed that, you haven't been in church for a couple months, and I know there's a lot of stress on the farm right now, and I'm checking in. Are you doing okay? How are you? Let's go out and go for a drive or go watch the game or go get a coffee or whatever." But that reaching out is so incredibly important.
Mm, absolutely. And, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but we need a two-way street there where, everyone needs to be okay admitting, like, hey, I am having a little bit of a tough time. Is that a
Yep.
accurate assessment there?
Yeah, but sometimes just by virtue of their behavior, that's their admission, right? Like verbally, they may not be saying, I'm really struggling, but we're seeing it. We may be seeing the signs, the frustration, the mood changes, the sleeplessness. And so that in essence is them saying it.
Mhm.
And so sometimes people aren't going to want to talk about it. We can still reach out. We can still check in. If they're not reciprocating, okay, just know I'm thinking about you. I'm probably going to keep checking in. Here's some resources. If you do feel like calling somebody, you can text me anytime and just don't stop there. Don't give up. Keep checking in, keep touching base. It doesn't have to be even to talk about the problem. It can be like, "Hey, let's go watch the game together. Let's go fishing. Well, this is North Dakota, probably not a lot of fishing out there, but just kidding.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to have a mini counseling session with the person.
Right.
It's just about being together and engaging them to go do something or, spend time together.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the third segment I wanted to touch on, this one's a really sticky one. And it's really
Mhm.
difficult because as a grain buyer through my career, or our agronomy team, we work very intimately with these farmers. It is our
Yep.
goal to make them as successful as possible. Our
Yep.
tagline at Horizon Resources is solutions for your success. So that is our ultimate goal, is for success to be on the farm. Now,
Yep.
when we see a time like this where markets are out of our control, we cannot make the
Mhm.
grain prices go higher. We can't make fertilizer prices come lower. If we could, that would be
Yep.
great. I always have said it's more fun buying $10 wheat than it is buying $5 wheat, because everyone's just a little bit happier.
Yep.
So that being said, we're working with these people on an intimate basis. We know what farm health is. If I'm in industry, what do I
Mhm.
do? Because maybe I don't have the 100% personal relationship where we're gonna
Yep.
meet up for a coffee, but how can I help? How can I not overstep, still keep a professional relationship, but still offer some type of help?
Yeah, that's such a good question because it really does depend on the level of relationship you have with the person, right? Like, I'm sure some of your folks have worked with the same family for many, many years, probably multiple generations. And so they know these people, where others are just coming into it, new people, new clients, new staff. So some of it is going to depend on your relationship with the person and your comfort level. But there are just some basic things across the board. Obviously, the better you know the person, the better apt you are to know when something's changing, when they're not doing okay. It could be that they're canceling meetings with you, that you've had, scheduled meetings and either they're not showing up or they're telling you, don't bother coming out, or I got something else that came up. So if there's kind of this distance, I guess they're putting between you, that's a time to not disrespect what their wants are, but maybe just say, "You know what? Just even a little 5-minute touch base out on the farm, just so I could say hi, drop some stuff off."
Yeah.
So, don't let them close the door on you completely, if possible at all, being respectful, but still maintaining that contact. Um, if you have a close relationship and you're noticing some things, then checking in on them, just saying, "Hey, last time I was here, things seem different. Are you doing okay? I know it's tough right now." And then be that listener.
Mhm.
I'm sure, and I hear this from egg business people all the time, that the first 75% of their visit is listening to the stressors of the family and the crops and the weather and the livestock. And then maybe that last 25% we can actually get down to business.
Yeah.
That's okay. That is about developing relationships with these folks who are chronically stressed. By and large, farmers and ranchers are chronically stressed, which means their stress level has been up here for a long time, and they have not had the opportunity just to relax, let those cortisol and adrenaline levels drop. It just hasn't happened for them. So, a couple other really kind of key tips. Um, when you are working with them, knowing the chronic stress piece, knowing their brains are taxed, reminders are important. Um, Anything that you want them to remember should be written down. If you can make a chart, if you can make it color coded, all the better,
Mhm.
because these are not people that are going to often be able to. They don't have capacity to read narratives, paragraphs of information. It's quick, it's a bullet point. If they want more, they can ask for more. So the listening, checking in, reminders, making things visual, all really important. And I would say along with that, have resources handy. So are there farm or egg specific resources in your region? So some of it might be, a counselor that's designated for agriculture like I am. Some of it might be stuff through extension on the website. Whatever you can find. And even verbally telling them, I met with a few farmers and, they have found help in this area. I just had a call with a farmer this morning and he, after 12 years, went to the doctor, the medical doctor. And it's like, that was great because he's having physical effects from his stress, and he might not have been as motivated to talk to a counselor if he had not gone to that medical doctor first. So all of those things are good. Any kind of reaching out, any sharing of information, that you found helpful with other farmers can be good. If you hear about programs, passing the word on. We always assume people are getting all the news. Some are not. Some are pretty isolated. They're not on their computers. Um, and I think the hardest is when you are sensing from them that they are actually in a place of potentially being suicidal. It's like that's the biggie. It's like, what the heck do I do?
Unfortunately, to date, that I know of in North Dakota, I believe there's been 4 farm
Mhm.
suicides this year. I don't want to speak
Yeah.
for the entire cooperative network. I don't want to speak for every bank out there, but when I
Yep.
say there's alternatives, there's alternatives. I hope that people
Yep.
100% realize that. One of my favorite coworkers I've had in my career, he was a farmer. Farming didn't work out, and he came to work at the
Yep.
elevator. There's
Yep.
there is options out there if farming ends up
Yes.
not being the calling. But we've also done our best as a cooperative to be fiscally sound and give ourselves a position where
Mhm.
we can offer some flexibility. We're working day and night on programs that we can offer to try and alleviate some of the
It's
stress
awesome.
as much as we can. But there's still, like I said, only so much we can do. But
Yep.
what do we do when we talk about suicide prevention? How do we
Yeah.
how do we get involved in that? Because I talked about earlier not wanting to say the wrong things, and
Right.
there's no easy way to jump into such a heavy topic. So
No.
let's give everybody some tips on this, Monica, because we need to.
Sure. And I will even say, I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years, and it's still not easy for me
Yeah.
to broach that subject with people because you don't know the reaction or response, and of course, we all have that fear that what if it happens? What if here we are communicating with someone that we either work with or we care about, and they actually make the decision to either attempt or actually end their life. So scary. I mean, no question about it. So it's, an easy, not easy, a plan that you can put in place. Um, we do this training called QPR, question, persuade, refer. And if anybody out there wants that training done, I'm happy to do it for you. We can do it virtually, we can do it in person, doesn't matter. Um, but it's 3 steps that when you are noticing some warning signs in someone, the first thing you do is just question them. You can say, these are the things I've been noticing. Are you thinking about suicide?
Mm.
And if they indicated all that they are, then the second step is persuade. And that's really a lot about listening. And exactly what you said is talking to them about that there is hope.
Mm.
Like, this is not how you're going to feel forever. Even if hard decisions have to be made about the farm, that is not your life.
Yeah.
That is not as important as your life. So the persuade step is really getting them talking and giving them hopeful comments. Like, this is, we can work together to make things better. There are people that can help. I need you here tomorrow. Your family needs you here tomorrow. There are people that will walk with you through this.
Mm.
And then the final step is refer, and that's really that piece where we kinda have to do our homework ahead of time and find out, okay, if this person is feeling suicidal, the best way to say it to them is, "Will you let me help you get help? Like, will you let me make some calls? You don't have to do anything." And then we make some calls, bring them to where they need to go, whether it's a hospital emergency department. We're pretty rural. And so sometimes the best option we have is 988, which is the suicide and crisis lifeline nationwide. You'll be connected with someone who can help. You can text, call, or chat like online. Um, you can also ask them like, who else can we get here? Is there an adult child? Is there a spouse? Is there a close friend? Like let's get some other people involved here because we need to make sure you live.
Yeah.
Like there's no options here. We need to make sure that you live. And so hard conversation to have. Those 3 steps can definitely help guide the conversation. Not unusual for people to say, "No, I wouldn't do that," and you not believe them. Keep them talking.
Yeah.
Keep talking. Tell them you're gonna check in. Get assurance from them that they're gonna be there tomorrow when you call or text to check in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, some strategies.
Well, like you said, it's not an easy topic to bring up, because this was one of the main reasons I reached out to you, was to talk about this topic. And I
Yep.
still have sweaty palms. I'm nervous about talking
Yep.
about it. It was a little uncomfortable to even bring it up. And we're not even in that type of conversation right now, just to even get close to that conversation. So
Right.
this is not an easy thing.
Right.
And I think the main thing to realize is we want to see all of our patrons. We want to see all of their spouses for
Yep.
a long, long time, all their family members.
Yep.
We want them to be, here with us. And so,
Yes.
use that 988 line if you've had any bad thoughts.
The thing about 988 is it's a suicide and crisis lifeline. So people can call, like if you're sitting in the combine and you're having some panic or anxiety and you just need a neutral person to talk it through with, call or text 988.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be about suicide. It can absolutely be any type of crisis situation. And they can also help connect you to a more local resource too.
Great. The other thing I wanted to talk about that was on your list of topics that you cover is compassion fatigue. And there's something that we're getting really close to here that we're talking about quite a bit. And that's, our agronomy team is about to embark on a really tough fall. These people, they rely on these sales to feed their families as well. And they're going to be dealing with a lot of people that are in not so great of moods. And so it's going to, we just had a meeting at the co-op of our senior leadership team. And one of the guys walked out of there and said, "Man, that was a real downer of a meeting." And so to think about that, no, we're concerned about it, like I've mentioned, but even your coworker to coworker, how do we deal with that? How do we deal with if somebody reaches out to 3 people in a row and it's some real tough news on each call? How do we handle this fatigue of being around all of this?
Yeah. Oh, such a good question and a very real thing that we don't think about a lot in agriculture with people who work with farmers and ranchers. But when you are working with people who are chronically stressed, who are struggling, it starts to take a toll or can start to take a toll on you. So often we think about compassion fatigue happening for like first responders or emergency department workers or things like that are in life and death situations. It doesn't have to be about life and death. It can be like we are feeling the stress and shouldering the burdens of the people we work with. And that's a very real thing in these tough times. And then you have the added stressor, like you said, about like, this is impacting, like I feel for these people and it's also impacting my finances. And so it just doesn't feel good all the way around. It is super important that I suppose first we can just start talking about like what are some initial signs or symptoms that I'm even feeling compassion fatigue. And some of it is you might find yourself taking time off work, dreading going to work, withdrawing from coworkers that you used to have a good relationship with. You might find yourself dreading certain clients or patrons. So there's definitely that emotional component. It may be impacting sleep, eating, appetite. Uh, it can be pretty pervasive. It may feel a lot like depression, honestly. Like I just feel unmotivated. I used to be excited about this. I'm not excited anymore. Uh, that that can be like early signs of compassion fatigue. The earlier you ID it and make some changes, the better. So, different things work for different people. But I think a lot of what helps with compassion fatigue is what you do outside of work. Like, do you have hobbies, things that bring you joy? Are you surrounded by good, solid people? Because if work is hard and you go home and the relationships at home are bad, that's not good. You have no place where you can go and just feel supported. So watching, who you're spending your time with, what you're doing with your time outside of work, that doing things, staying active, things that bring you joy and happiness, making sure that physically you are taking care of yourself. And this sounds so minimal, but are you drinking water or something other than, beer, energy drinks, and pop? I think you all say pop, not soda.
Yeah.
We say pop in Minnesota, but it's like that's not gonna make the difference in finances, but I tell you what, if we are physically feeling okay, we are much more able to deal with the stressors that come our way than if we are not feeling well, if we're dehydrated, if we're not, you know, getting nutrition into our bodies, if we're not getting sleep. It just makes everything compoundingly difficult. So, watch that part of your life. Um, and the biggest one is really your mind's your state of mind, your mindset.
Mm.
So if we whatever we allow ourselves to think about, that's going to drive how we feel. And those thoughts and feelings are going to drive how we function. And so if we're stuck on thinking this is never going to end, this is going to be a bad year, every farm I drive onto, there's going to be, it's not going to be good, we're going to be feeling already defeated. And that is going to impact our motivation and our energy level, our relationship building skills, our communication. And then it's going to reinforce that original thought that this is just going to be bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. So we really have to watch that mindset and try to look at the positives, just like farmers, focus on the things that you do have control over, make the most of those things, and make a plan. Like, okay, we're heading into a tough season. What's our plan?
Mhm.
Like, do we need to alter our budget, our personal budget at home? Do we need to look at other sources of income on the side? What needs to happen for us to get through this period of time that's going to be tough, knowing that there will be an end. There will be a light at the end of the tunnel. We just need to kind of tighten things up and make it through.
Absolutely. And the last one I wanted to touch on, you kind of introduced there was, to me, my spouse is
Mhm.
so important. And so
Mhm.
uh, the one of the last topics that you have is helping farm couples survive and thrive. And
Yeah.
so let's talk about that, the importance, some of the tips and tricks to just some brief notes. I mean, it's going to be tough. Every relationship's different. You don't
Yeah.
know what it's like
Yep.
unless you're in it. But
Yep.
talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. I look to my parents a lot for this because they're, in their mid to late 70s. They farmed through the 80s, nearly lost the farm. Um, they've been through a lot and somehow, they've made it work. They've been married since they've been 19 and 20.
Mm.
And so when we look at kind of the truths behind what makes it work, I feel like there's a couple things that really rise to the surface. One is good communication. And we know when stress gets high, our ability to think drops. And so our communication skills go out the back door. And some of us don't have good communication skills to begin with. So when we're stressed, we really are hurting.
Yeah.
So I think it's during times of stress, especially if you know they're coming, like, okay, this is going to be hard. We've got to sit down regularly and just talk through how each of us is doing and what's our plan, what's a struggle, what's going well. So you really are creating that that team. And maybe it's not your spouse you can do this with. Maybe it's your parent that you're farming with, or your sibling you're farming with, or a good friend. Hopefully it can be a spouse. But that open communication, hearing each other, actively listening is big.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is, again, when our emotions are high, our ability to think is greatly diminished. So the more we can, if we're coming into a conversation with really big emotions, it's probably not the best time to talk it through. That is when we say things we don't mean and we can never take back. It's when we do things that we later regret. So being aware, like if my emotions are up here, it's kind of like a teeter-totter, a seesaw. If my emotions are up here, my rational thinking brain greatly diminished. If I want this conversation to go well, I need to just take a few moments to calm my emotions before we can talk, or before we can address whatever needs to be addressed. Otherwise, it's just not going to be a positive experience.
Yeah.
The third thing I'll say, and this kind of goes along with the keeping the emotions on a rational level, is view it from a problem-solving perspective. Okay, this is something we're dealing with. Instead of pointing fingers at each other, like imagine you're on the same side, on the same team, and that problem's out there. And you together are brainstorming ways to tackle that problem and make a plan around the problem. So yeah, it's not easy. And again, often the go-to is, I don't want to talk about it, and we shut down in times of stress, and that's really the worst thing to do.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Well, okay. So I'm going to give you another chance. If there's anything that I didn't touch
Okay.
on that you think that we
Okay.
need to talk about before we wrap up the show, and if not, I'd love to have some resources for our listeners. Whether they're state of North Dakota, state of Montana, those are, like I said, where most of our growers are. So
Yep.
if you have any resources, and if not, we will research some and we'll put them in the show notes. So we will have it in the show notes on wherever you're listening to this, in case you would like to learn more, or you want to reach out for some help too. So, Monica, what do you got
That sounds
for
great. I guess the last point I just like to reemphasize is, don't give up.
Yeah.
Keep talking to people, keep reaching out. Even if hard decisions need to be made, we need you here. Um, Even if the farm is struggling, we need you here. Like, there are options, there are things that can be done. You're not going to feel in a week or a month or a year the way you feel right now.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling, just hold on, reach out, talk to somebody. And as far as resources, which that kind of leads right into, um, there is a site. It's Farm Bureau did an initiative. It's called Farm State of Mind. And if you go on their national website, just Google Farm Bureau Farm State of Mind, there are resources that you can search by state. Some are definitely agriculture specific. Some are more general, which is fine, but it can be a starting point for you. Um, in North Dakota specifically, I know there's an organization called Together Counseling, and they have a farm to farm therapy component that I believe is partially covered through grant funding. So that is something to reach out to. Um, I'm available to, if you just want to talk about next steps, if you are looking for resources, I'm happy to talk with you, help you find something that fits what you need. I'll also say that every month I facilitate a farm suicide loss support group. So if you are someone who is connected with agriculture and you've lost someone close to you to death by suicide, log on. You don't have to say anything. It's typically a small group. We meet virtually for an hour and a half once a month, and it's other people connected to farming that have had someone close to them die. And so we know that that's a risk factor for suicide ripple effect. And so to really support survivors is the goal there.
So how
And
did they reach out to you,
yep,
Monica?
I'll just give you my phone number and my email. You can call, text, or email. So phone number is 218-280-7785. And my email is monicamariekm3@gmail.com. I will also say that I do have a contract through the state, and I will be doing some farm couple night out events. One will be in the West. So I'll actually get that information to you so you can send it out to your patrons when
Right.
it's not scheduled or anything yet. We don't have a date, but it'll be coming up within the next year where it's just an evening. You and your spouse can come out, have a free meal, and listen to me talk a little bit just about helping farm couples survive and thrive, especially in difficult times. So be on the lookout for that as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely include that. We have an agronomy newsletter that goes out. We'll include that in that.
Awesome.
Our nightly grain markets, we send an email out. We'll send it out in that. So we'll help you promote that. We'll try and get a
Awesome.
crowd there. So yeah, awesome.
Awesome.
Well,
Very good.
Monica, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. What a great episode and such an important topic. Thank you for tuning in to On the Horizon. If our conversation today sparked your interest, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Stay connected by following @Horizon Resources Co-op on Facebook and Instagram and explore the world of agriculture with us. We're excited to continue bringing you real conversations with Horizon Resources industry partners, member owners, and employees, discovering more about your local neighbors and community friends. Until next time, keep looking towards the horizon.
Horizon Resources, solutions for your success.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be used or considered as an offer or a solicitation to buy or sell commodities. Horizon Resources does not make any representation, warranty, or guarantee as to the completeness, accuracy, timeliness, or suitability of any information contained within any part of this podcast. Horizon Resources does not accept any liability for any loss or damage, including without limitation loss of profit, which may arise directly or indirectly from use or reliance on such information. Whilst the information provided has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, Horizon Resources does not attest to its accuracy or completeness. Horizon Resources reserves the right to change any source without restriction or notice. The information herein is indicative only and is subject to change.